It's Stacy Essner from Compass with Coffee Talk. I will be talking with Alex Margulis from Cross Country Mortgage. We will be chatting about the interest rates and how that is going to be impacting everyone in the who's looking to buy, and what are some programs that we can some home buyers. So hopefully he will be joining us in just a second. And there he is. Hello, Mr. Margulis. How are you today?
Hello. Doing well, doing well.
Are you
Hopefully
staying
you
cool?
continue well. Sorry?
Are you staying cool?
Staying inside my office. I'm just going to hunker down and wait for the next couple of days under the table or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't need this heat, that's for sure.
I know. I am out and about.
You're a brave soul.
Yeah, well, you know, it's the life of a realtor.
That is true.
Yes. So we are not so happy, those of us who are helping people buy homes, with what's going on with the Fed. So give us a brief rundown with what has happened in the last few days.
Well, I mean, interest rates, we're talking about mortgage rates being elevated right now. So the Fed's actions of increasing the Fed rate was intended to kind of slow the economy down. And if the economy slows down enough, there will be a recession. And if there's a recession, history tells us mortgage rates drop once recession hits. The goal for the Fed was to reduce the inflation numbers, which really eroded the value of the dollar, which also increased the mortgage rates because everything is tied to the bond market. Well, the inflation has gone down a lot. In fact, over the year, it's gone down from like over 9% down to around 3% on the inflation numbers. And you would think, well, that's supposed to help us with mortgage rates, but it hasn't. And there are other factors involved, obviously, right? So now everyone's kind of trying to figure out what's going to be the next thing that's going to help us determine or forecast when rates will drop. Well, what's happened is, even though the inflation has gone down, the economy is still very robust. I mean, you see, based on GDP numbers, based on the employment numbers, things are going still very well in the economy. People are buying, they're racking up credit card debt. We're over $1 trillion in credit card debt in the country, which is a record high right now. So people are still heavily consuming. And that's not helping with slowing down the economy, which is not helping bringing rates down. So in a long answer, but keeping it short here, as soon as the economy slows down, I think is when we're going to start seeing rates to come down. When that's going to happen is anyone's guess. We'll see how the employment numbers come out first. If the employment numbers don't look as strong as the expectations, that could signal an improving mortgage rates too, because if employment slows down, the economy slows down, and again, the same thing that we talked about. So that's the gist of it. Sorry for the long-winded answer to that.
No, that's totally fine. Okay, so if I'm a first-time home buyer,
yeah.
How is that going to impact me right now? You know, if I have, I mean, obviously, when you see an interest rate on your site or, you know, Loan Depot or, you know, Rocket Mortgage, and it's, you know, whatever today's interest rate is, that's someone that has stellar credit, right? No debt,
yeah.
Right? Like
yeah.
all the boxes are ticked and they're excellent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I have an average credit score, you know, it's still above 700, but it's not 780.
Mm-hmm.
If I have some debt, not a ton of it, but let's say 20% debt to income ratio, what type of credit score interest rate am I looking at right now?
Today's actually a pretty good day. So we've gained 0.25% in rate in comparison to yesterday. There's been some wild swings, Stacey. So, you know, for the past few weeks, we've seen rates continuing to climb day over day over day, and today was actually a really good day in comparison. I would say probably in the mid sevens.
Okay.
That's a safe answer to your question for now.
And is that and then how does it fluctuate between a single family home and buying a condo or a townhouse with an HOA?
The general answer is that there's going to be a difference in rate by 1/8%, typically, maybe even a quarter, higher on the condos.
Okay.
Cross Country Mortgage, the company that I'm with, we here, at least in Chicagoland area, we have waived that rate adjustment for condos for our clients of Cross Country Mortgages for condo purchasers, because a lot of our clients are buying condos, so we want to be as competitive as possible and incentivize them as much as possible in this kind of tougher market. So I don't know a lot of lenders are doing that, but Cross Country is.
Okay, and then what about for an FHA? Is that a better, if I have a credit score below, what is it? It's 580, not 580. Above 580.
580 and above, yeah.
Right. Then what? I mean, and obviously there's you can only buy up to a certain percentage. I mean, a certain price point.
Right.
But what are those interest rates looking like right now?
They're better. They're better than conventional financing. That's always been traditionally the case. FHA financing terms are better. Mm-hmm. The thing that you need to kind of watch out for, if you can qualify for both FHA versus conventional, and you think, well, I'll just go with FHA because that has a slightly better rate in today's market. The thing about FHA financing is that it has mortgage insurance premiums that are not there with conventional financing. And to be clear, if you're putting less than 20% down on a conventional loan, you're still going to have private mortgage insurance or PMI. But in comparison to an FHA mortgage, which also has mortgage insurance, there's another layer of mortgage insurance premium that FHA has that conventional mortgages do not have. It's called an upfront mortgage insurance premium and gets financed into the loan amount, in addition to you also having a monthly mortgage insurance payment. So there's two types.
And how much approximately is that PMI, the private mortgage insurance? What percentage of the home value is that PMI?
So it's not based on the home value, it's based on the loan amount.
Oh, yeah, that's right, the loan amount.
And so the upfront mortgage insurance premium that I mentioned that gets financed into the loan amount, right. It's 1.75% of the loan amount.
And that's on an FHA. What about on a conventional? So I'm a first-time home buyer. I'm only putting 5% down.
Right.
And so for that 15%, right? Because once you have 20% equity, the PMI drops off.
That's right.
So what percentage of the loan amount is my PMI on a conventional loan with 5% down, approximately?
That depends on the credit score and a few other factors like debt to income ratio and such. But I'd say with 5% down, maybe 0.5% of the loan amount on an annual basis. Okay. So that means 0.5% of the loan amount, for example, divide that by 12 and you get the monthly PMI payment. That's a very conservative answer to that question. Again, that depends. There's a lot of factors.
No, and I appreciate that. But just to give people a general idea, and obviously with every applicant, it's a case-by-case basis.
Correct.
And then,
and just to add to this, so we were just talking about FHA versus conventional. The 1.75% on FHA, that's the upfront mortgage insurance premium that gets financed into the loan amount.
Right.
But the monthly mortgage insurance with FHA is 55% of the loan amount.
Okay.
Or I should say 0.55%, just over 0.5%, 0.55% of the loan amount. And it depends on credit scores. It could be actually more advantageous to consider FHA financing if your credit scores are low, because with conventional financing, the lower your credit score is, the more expensive that mortgage insurance premium is. So as I was mentioning, 0.5%, that was kind of middle of the road type of mortgage insurance premium. If your credit scores dip below a certain level, it exponentially increases. So in that situation, it's better to go FHA because that monthly mortgage insurance does not differ based on credit score.
And then with an FHA, like with a conventional, once you get to that 20% equity in your property, then you can ask your not the lender, but the person, the loan servicer to drop the PMI. Can you do that on FHA mortgages?
You cannot. That on a 30-year term loan, if you're going to put the minimum down, that mortgage insurance will be there forever. As long as you have that mortgage without refinancing out of it, of course, you're going to have that mortgage insurance. No matter if you've got 5% equity or 50% equity, that PMI is still going to be there.
Got it. Okay, so something for someone to keep in mind. And obviously you would go through all of that and go through the pros and cons of the two.
Of course.
So what types of programs are there for a first-time home buyer, especially given the increase in interest rates where it might cost someone more as far as a down payment? So, with like closing cost assistance or whatnot, when we're still getting into some multiple offers in different areas, right, and little inventory.
So, and you can speak to this a little bit as far as how competitive an offer with low down payment is going to look like in this seller market. Unfortunately, that might be a tough one to combat. But from the buyer's perspective, as far as financing terms are concerned, if you're limited on your available cash to close and you want some assistance, there are plenty of options nowadays that are available. And there's been a big push from the government on the federal level to incentivize or to make it more affordable to finance home purchases nowadays. So a lot of the programs require certain income limitation. Okay, so they're not giving the house away here. They're not going to give it to someone who is doing extremely well in their financial world. The whole premise here is to help someone who needs help, right? Someone who doesn't have enough income, who doesn't make a ton of money. And in Chicago, since we're in Chicago, right, our Chicagoland area median income level that typically qualifies for down payment assistance is at 80% of that area median income. And so what that means on a dollar basis is 80% of our area is $87,520. So someone who's making up to that $87,500 will, as a first-time home buyer again, will obtain a down payment assistance. It could be, depends on programs, $4,000, $6,000, $10,000. It certainly changes depending on the type of program we're talking about, but there are some programs available that could give you that much money if you're making up to that limit. There are also other incentives right now, and this is a lender-specific thing, Stacy, so it's not going to be for everyone. It's not ubiquitous. But again, I'm going to bring up Cross Country Mortgage because that's where I'm at. Cross Country Mortgage has a very exclusive program here in Chicagoland area that I don't know too many other lenders that are offering this year. But it's a conventional mortgage through Freddie Mac where we're giving $3,000 to first-time homebuyers who make as much as $153,000. So you don't have to be at a low to moderate income level that I was just talking about to get a grant or down payment assistance. So your typical first-time home buyer who is doing pretty well, I mean, $153,000 is doing well, he or she can still get a $3,000 grant. And that could go towards down payment assistance, closing costs, or buying down the interest rate to make it more affordable on a monthly basis, which is what we're talking about right now. Right.
Okay. So I just want to go back. The $87,000 for the first-time home buyer. Is there like, so for example, I bought my condo and I sold it a few years ago. Is there like a, a an opportunity that I could qualify for that after a certain number of years where I'm no longer where I would become a first-time home buyer again?
Yeah, technical answer to that is 3 years out of home ownership. So if you used to own a home, but it's been at least 3 years since you've owned a home,
Yeah.
you are a born again first time home buyer.
Okay. Got it. And then, and is that like area specific?
No.
Or it's
Well, the 3 years?
No,
The 3 years is just for everyone.
Just the under $87,000 and first time home buyer.
So most of these programs for the 87.5 income earners are a national program because it's through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, types of agency. So we're talking about all around the country. You should be able to obtain some sort of assistance. That income of 87.5 I'm speaking of is specific to Chicago.
For Chicago.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
So in every other state, it would be dependent on their median
area
income.
Median income, right? Because it's 80% of whatever that locale's area median income is. It could be higher, it could be lower.
Got it. And then the one that you have, the $3,000 grant, is that area specific?
It is.
That for Chicago? But is that certain zip codes? I mean, what are the, is it based on like? No.
It's not. Actually, it's, forget what the acronym stands for, MSA. Essentially, it encompasses Chicagoland area, okay? So all the suburbs of Chicagoland area and even certain parts of southeast corner of Wisconsin and northwest corner of Indiana.
Right.
So it does encompass more than just Chicago itself.
Okay. And so how do those two programs differ from like the IDA programs?
That's a good question. So IDA is a statewide program for the state of Illinois.
Right.
IHDA, Illinois Housing Development Authority. IDA program is a great way to purchase a home with some sort of an assistance. But again, you have to qualify. It's a little bit more challenging to qualify for that program in comparison to the ones that we've talked about based on the debt to income ratio requirements. So IDA is a little bit more restrictive in that sense. IDA does offer assistance for buyers who make as much as $132,000, if I'm not mistaken. A roughly $132,000 income. So that's helpful. But there is an price limitation. So you cannot buy a single family home over $581,000 purchase price. Even if you could, afford it and you feel good about paying a higher payment at a higher purchase price, they won't let you buy one.
Okay.
And the other caveat to IDA is that there's going to be extra costs associated with that type of a loan from the state of Illinois. And sometimes there are strings attached to what they're going to be giving you. So if they give you, let's say, a $10,000 grant, which is one of their options, it's a repayable grant. So it's not something that they're going to just say, hey, $10,000, here you go, use it, and don't worry about us. They're going to say, use it, but pay us back interest-free, but it's pay us back over 10 years. So $83 a month, you're paying back every single month for 10 years. And if you don't own it for 10 years, this home for 10 years, whatever is remaining of that balance of $10,000 over the years, they're going to tack that onto the mortgage payoff when you pay off that loan upon the sale or refinance of that mortgage. So the point is, they're not just going to give you free money for nothing.
Right.
They're still going to want to get something from it.
So with your grant or the one through Freddie Mac, those aren't, you know, you
There's no
have to
strings
live in the home
attached.
for, there's no strings
There's no
attached.
strings. That's the beautiful thing about it, is that we're talking about something that is just free money that Freddie Mac is giving away. And they've chosen Cross Country Mortgage as a test pilot for that program, as a lender to test it out in the country. So there's only a select few lenders, and Cross Country is lucky enough to have that to have that program.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very good to know. So that's a great way to help first-time home buyers get into a place, because having that $3,000 can really help with some closing costs,
Yeah,
or down payment, or to buy down the rate.
and to buy down the rate if it's really that dire of a situation for them that they have to stay within a specific budgeted payment, right? They can use the $3,000 to buy down the rate. My recommendation, if you were to ask me as an advisor for your loan, I would say take that money and use it for cash to close, because the assumption is that there's going to be a refinance opportunity in the next couple of years. And if you're going to buy down the rate with this $3,000, you're never going to see that money back. Once you refinance that mortgage, that rate will be lower anyway in a couple of years. So might as well just save the money that you're paying out of pocket today on this purchase with that $3,000, right? So that's how I'm rationalizing it, is because we expect rates to drop in the near future. This mortgage payment they're going to have at these elevated rates is going to be a short-lived reality for them, most likely.
Right. Right. And I mean, we have no idea when rates might lower.
Look, I mean, they keep talking about projections and estimates. They talked about it last year, about this year.
Right.
They were wrong.
Right.
Now they're talking about 2024 interest rates could be hovering around 6%. We're right now in the low to mid 7s. Right. So for them to drop by more than 1%, God willing, but we'll see.
Right. But that will then bring more people into the market to buy, and we're already low. We already have very little inventory.
Right.
So taking advantage of programs that you have to offer could really help someone that may be short a little bit of cash to help them close.
I think you bring up a really interesting topic, actually, because we were talking about how to get someone to more affordable levels today rather than wait for something in the future. There's a statistic out there that for every 1% reduction in the rate, this is on a national scale, for 1% reduction in the rate, 2 to 3 million new home buyers enter the market. Again, this is
really?
a national. Yes, this is historic statistics are backing this data up. Again, national level, so we're not talking about 2 to 3 million in Chicago area, but you can extrapolate and figure out how big of an injection of demand is going to be in our market, in our neighborhood, Chicago. And it's going to be significant. And you are correct. We have a problem with inventory. So I don't foresee, you probably agree with me, you don't foresee any huge influx of inventory from new construction that's going to be really adding to inventory, right?
Correct.
Because if we're talking about injection of supply of properties from people who want to sell their existing home and buy something else, that's a net zero exchange there. They're selling their home and they're buying somebody else's house. But if we're needing more supply, we actually need new construction into the marketplace to really fill the need of the demand that's going to be added into this marketplace. So that's not happening, or at least not enough, not fast enough, not at the levels that are going to keep up the pace of the demand. So what will happen is, as you said, home values will increase the moment when rates drop, because all these people who are sitting on the market, or on the fence, who are sitting outside the market of buying homes, they're going to jump in, because that's what they're waiting on, right?
Well, home values are still increasing. It's so interesting because there's certain areas. I have a buyer. We went in over asking, even over what the comps were showing, and we did the appraisal gap addendum, and we got the appraisal gap, and it came in, what did it come in? Like $500 over what our offer was. So she didn't, I mean, we didn't have to worry about the appraisal gap, but it was $7,500 over what the listing price was.
Right.
So hers right now is the highest priced, it'll be the highest priced townhouse in the area.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that the values over the last 2 years have gone up $25,000, and we're talking like $200,000 townhouses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, so it's not like, and this is not in the city, this is in a suburb, like not very near the city. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing the way some property values have like we're talking over 10% increase in value. And so condos in the city, when they're priced appropriately, are still increasing tremendously. Mm-hmm. In some parts of the city, there's a ton of inventory and prices are being reduced. But in single family homes, they're going. But I mean, but since the market crashed in 2008, we haven't seen new construction go up as much as it should. Yeah, right? Yeah. Because people were afraid to build. Yeah. And now we are seeing those, and some of them are starting to be sold again, and they're getting snapped up.
Of course. But not at the level that, or at the pace that we need them in this market when we are sorely lacking inventory.
Right. And 50% of homeowners are baby boomers. 50% in the nation. And those baby boomers aren't ready to move into senior living or assisted living. They're staying in place and figuring out how to live in their homes.
Right.
And that's a problem that we're running into, because all of the millennials and the Gen Z who are ready to buy have nothing to buy.
Oh, yeah, nowhere to go. But the rents keep going up, right?
The rents are ridiculous.
Well, it's interesting you say all these things because I think that the Gen Zers and the millennials are getting discouraged from buying because they're seeing home prices keep inching up and interest rates keep inching up, and they're like, I'm being squeezed from both ends. Like, how am I going to be able to afford home buying, right?
Right.
Even with low down payment, even with incentives of down payment assistance and whatever else, how am I going to win these bids? How am I going to get anything in? Well, what's the alternative? You can continue renting at these extremely high rental payments, right? And I don't know what you have in your toolbox, Stacy, but anyone who is listening to this, or if you would be interested, Stacy, I can provide a presentation on this another time, but rent versus buy, it's all right there on black and white. It's clearly going to make sense to buy, even at these elevated rates, even with today's home values and where they are in comparison to where they were a few years ago. It's still going to make sense to buy a home in a long period of time. Now, if you're going to move in 2 years and have to sell, then it doesn't make sense. But if you're going to be there for at least 2-3 years or longer, buy right now.
Right. Well, it's because of how much you're paying in rent. If rent goes up 3 to 5% a year,
exactly,
which is what is, and it's been going up even more in some places. It's going up
recently,
8 to 10%,
right?
8 to 10%, and your interest rate is at 7.5%.
Whatever.
You have a steady. The only thing you can't control are taxes.
Exactly.
What your property taxes are, right? But you can appeal those. But if you know that it's 7.5% when rent is going up 8 to 10%
every year,
it's a no-brainer. And you can't, and your home values are still going up.
Exactly.
Right, it is a no-brainer. But.
Yeah, and if anyone's contemplating when should be a good time to buy, this is a scary time to buy because rates are high and home values are high. Just wait a year when rates drop and that
and home
influx
values
of
go
demand.
up,
Yeah. And then they
and
go
you're,
off exactly.
well, but I just remember when last summer, when the interest rates jumped from 3 to 5%, and but people were paying an additional like $25,000 over asking in order to win the bid, multiple offers. But now there weren't multiple offers, and home prices may have come down a little bit, or you were able to get homes for under asking, maybe, or you were getting them for asking price.
Right.
So when you figured out like how much more you're paying with the higher interest rate, but you didn't have to bring the additional $25,000 to closing, right? The payment was like almost the same, maybe a little more, but it's not that much more. I mean, right? And we could say 7 is still an average mortgage payment.
Historically. Yeah,
historically, right?
Yeah. 22, 23 years ago when I got into this business, interest rate was 6.875, and people were lining out the door to refinance into those rates at that time because that was the all-time low at that moment. So kind of gives you a little bit of perspective of how rates have been historically, not in the last 20 years, but historically.
Correct, right. But when people who had 15% interest rates, like
I don't think a lot of people, millennials, even know what that sounds like or it looks like.
But they should ask their parents.
Exactly. To put it in perspective, correct.
Yes, exactly. But I don't know. I just think that we need to. It's all about educating our clients on what we can do, and sometimes it is patience and providing them with perspective.
I think that's
and realistic options. So,
and you just hope that they will trust you and listen to your advice, because if they say, well, this is too expensive for me, I'll wait and see what happens. Buyer beware.
Right. I mean, you're correct. It is expensive. It is the most expensive purchase you will ever make in your entire life.
Well, I'm talking about with where rates are.
Correct. But it is expensive.
Yeah.
That is correct.
That is true.
But waiting is also expensive as well.
There's a cost of waiting, which people don't grasp, in real time. But yes.
But oh wow. So, I mean, yeah, it makes it more challenging. But there's only so many things that we can control.
Correct. So, I know real estate in America will do just fine. Things go up and down. There's always cycles. Just like with mortgage rates, there's going to be another cycle of rates coming down, and people will take advantage of it with refinancing. I just don't see this being a bad time to do it, especially because unlike 2008, you brought that up yourself, when we had a downturn in real estate, we don't have a bubble. No. Back then, there was an oversupply of properties, which is why we had a precipitous downturn in home values when people couldn't afford a home.
Right.
Nowadays, people might feel like they can't afford a home because the interest rates are high in comparison to the years before, but there is a shortage of inventory, and people are sitting on a ton of equity in their homes. Those who own a home, they're not going to give up all that equity that they're sitting in. So there's not going to be a foreclosure situation where home values have to drop significantly in order for them to unload that home,
Right, and even the homes that there is a potential foreclosure or short sale, the homes will still get bought. Right. It just takes a little longer because there are a few more than I've seen, and some of that just has to do with people not being able to catch up since COVID.
That's possible,
but it's just not as much as it was in 2008.
Right, and so this is a apples to oranges comparison, and people cannot compare those two things at all. I just don't see the robustness of real estate in this country, even right now, is extremely strong. So
Yeah.
if you can afford the monthly payment, I'd say buy.
Yeah. Yeah. And reach out to you to see if that's possible.
I mean, that's the first step. Get pre-approved, and
Yeah.
then turn them back onto you to find them the right home.
Exactly. So, well, thank you.
Of
I've
course.
taken up a lot of your time today. I appreciate it.
Happy to
You're
help.
always a wealth of knowledge, and I will have your contact information in case anyone wants to reach out to you.
Thank you.
And
Great
I will
to talk
talk
to
to
you,
you
Bill.
soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Stay cool. Bye.
You too. You too. Bye.